So, we all know this guy, Alexander the Great, king of Macedonia. Yes, I'm saying that right, I looked it up. Conqueror of most of the known world, all while mostly in his 20s. But we're not talking about this guy because, honestly, who cares? He had daddy's army. No. Today, we're talking about this strong, independent, snake-wielding, Cersei Lannister type of mother, Olympias. Now, this is going to be a little bit more of a difficult story to tell because we're using ancient sources, and while they are entertaining, they're not the most reliable of sources, and they conflict with each other all the time. But I'm going to try my best. Now, I got most of my information from this book by Elizabeth Carney, if you care to give it a read. Also, I had some inspiration to do this because of Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast over Olympias. So, if you want to listen to a longer, more in-depth version, I highly recommend that. I'll put both podcast and the book in the description, so don't worry your little head. Alright, I'm gonna try to do this chronologically, but sources can be few and far between, especially for women in the ancient world. Olympias was born in Molossia. It was a part of Epirus around 373 BCE, and was the daughter of King Neoptolemus. Her name probably wasn't Olympias her whole life. She most likely changed it after Philip's horse won in a race in the Olympic Games. So this is how Greece is set up right now, with city-states everyone knows and loves to the south, Macedonia to the north, and this area in the middle is Molossia. These people think these people are whack, but both these people think that those people are whack. This is because they believed people in this region were basically like magic. Women in this time, while they of course had certain restrictions to prevent them from climbing the ladder of power, they were often given a different route to social climb, in the form of religious leaders. Olympias was a follower of Dionysus, which is the god of entertainment and can be associated with, like getting sloshed. But Dionysus can also be linked to the god of fertility as well. At these religious gatherings, it's said that there were a lot of snakes involved, and some would have them wrapped around wands. Fast forward, and the Macedonian king, King Philip II, needs another wife to secure relations with Molossia, something that was very common. Enter Olympias. The date of their marriage is unknown, but Olympias was probably no older than 18 and Philip was around 20, and already had around 4 wives. The wives of kings held different degrees of power that was mostly dependent on their children. A wife that gave birth to a male who is recognized as the heir has the most power. Wives that gave birth to daughters held less power, but daughters were good for making political alliances. And wives that gave birth to no children had the least amount of power, but depending on their family status, they could still have a decent amount of power. Olympias gave birth to a daughter named Cleopatra and a son named Alexander. While she was carrying the boy, she says she had a dream that Zeus struck her womb with a lightning bolt, symbolizing the importance of the child's life. Also kind of saying that he's a demigod. She probably didn't tell Philip this in bed, because Philip II, unifier of Greece, battle-hardened, manly man, didn't want to sleep in the same bed as Olympias because he was scared to death of her. Partly because of her magical, mystical nature, but also because she slept with snakes. Olympias, of course, knew of the power dynamic between the king's wives, and was very adamant about getting as much power as possible, but she had to compete with the other wives to gain legitimacy. And her main rival in the beginning years of the marriage was a Thessalian woman named Philina, who was the only other woman to give birth to a male, and was around the same age as Alexander, named Philip Aridaeus. This power struggle didn't last too long, as when Aridaeus grew older, they realized that he had mental limitations, and some speculated that Olympias and her mystical ways caused it. But now that the other son was out of the picture to become heir, Olympias was almost guaranteed to be the frontrunner for the wife that had the most power. That is until Philip got married yet again, but this time to a Macedonian woman named Cleopatra. No, not his daughter. Then an event took place while celebrating the wedding with a bunch of important people, and it goes one of three ways, or none at all. I don't know. The first telling of the story by Plutarch has the father of the newly wedded Cleopatra saying to the Macedonians that they had better beg the gods for a legitimate successor to the monarchy. Alexander was sitting right there and got mad, and he said to him, "Does he seem to be a bastard?" and threw a wine cup at him. Philip rose and drew his sword to his son, but he was too drunk and fell over. Alexander then mocked his dad, saying he couldn't cross one couch to another. How do you expect to cross one continent to another? Everyone laughed. Then he and Olympias put themselves into exile because their feelings were hurt. Another interpretation by Athenaeus goes that when he made the legitimate successor comment, Alexander threw his wine, but the father threw his wine back at Alexander, and Philip just kind of sat there and did nothing. To which Alexander and Olympias went into exile. And the third story goes that Alexander started the argument, and Philip tries to kill him, but his friends say, "No, don't do that." So he doesn't, and Alexander and Olympias go into exile. So we know something happened, they were mad, and left. Whatever the case may be, they came back and Philip apologized by arranging a marriage between Olympias' brother Alexander and Olympias' daughter Cleopatra. Am I reading that? Alright, so he'd married uncle and niece. Now it's good to mention a guy named Pausanias. He was one of Philip's many lovers, and he got into it with one of Philip's other male lovers, to which, at the command of Philip's new wife Cleopatra and her father, the guy who was delegitimizing Alexander, he was gang raped. He went to Philip for justice, but never got it. And at the wedding festival celebrating Olympias' daughter and her brother, Philip apparently ordered his bodyguards to stay away and show the people, "I ain't got nothing to fear, and everyone loves me." To which Pausanias stabbed or speared him where everyone could see. Then as he tried to escape, he tripped and was killed. Rumors began to spread about the death of the king. Some believed it was solely Pausanias to regain his honor. Many people believed Pausanias wasn't working alone, though. Many people believed Alexander and Olympias were behind it. But it's also good to point out that it very well could have been the Persians who knew that Philip was about to launch a conquest to take over the entire Persian Empire. Either way, the game had changed for Olympias. Her son had become king, and then they went on a Godfather-style killing spree against those who were possible enemies to Alexander's reign, justifying it by saying that they were part of the plot to assassinate Philip. One of those people being Philip's last wife, Cleopatra, and her daughter, Europa. Now, this isn't concrete, but Justin's account says that Olympias killed Cleopatra's daughter while she was still in her arms, then left a noose for Cleopatra to kill herself. A new era had arrived, and Olympias was now one of the most powerful and influential women in the Greek world. But now, new challenges emerged. Alexander left for his fun adventure to go murder a bunch of people in the name of conquest, leaving his mother and a man named Antipater in charge while he was gone. And they didn't like each other. Not at all. But hey, I'm sure nothing will come of this, and the story will end right here.